Welcome back. In the previous module, we learned how to write basic formulas. In this module, we'll learn about Excel function. These are inbuilt formulas that makes your work faster, easier, and more accurate. So instead of writing a long calculations manually, Excel already has function to help you shorten your time. So in this particular module, which is module 5, we have 10 lessons to talk about. So the first one is knowing what a function is. As I said before, a function is a predefined formula in Excel. So for example, instead of writing what we wrote here, this, or writing something like this, okay, so instead of having this, okay, you can have a simple function written so as to save time and reduce error as well. So to shorten it, you can do something of this nature. So you can do this, also use the column which we use in calculating this, but this time around I'm going to tailor it to what we are talking about here, which is Excel functions. So I'm going to have here equal to, then I'm going to write a simple Excel function that will help me calculate or add up these numbers here, because these numbers was what we used to have this. So instead of us picking this cell one by one to add up to give us the total, so I can just use an Excel function that can actually help me add those numbers up automatically. So we know that in addition, you use a function called sum in Excel. So that's the function I'm going to type here. I'm going to type sum, and the IntelliSense come up. So we have the syntax here: sum open bracket number 1 number 2. So I'm going to now call in the reference. I'm going to reference the cell now. So the cell that my data are is in D column, so it starts from D2 to D2 to D6. So that's what I have. And even if I don't close the brackets which I already opened, by pressing enter, Excel will know that I'm done with that formula, and it will just automatically do it for me, close it. But as a beginner, you have to close it so that you know how it works. So I just close it and I press enter. You can see it calculates it with ease for me using a function called the sum function. So this actually saves time and reduce error, so that you will not have to mistaken any of the cell for another, or make a mistake in any of the cell, or omit a cell in your calculation. So it actually reduces error. So let's start with the first function, which is the sum function. So this sum function is actually the most common function, okay, in Excel. Okay, so sum is used to add up numbers. So let's just say that we've already used the sum function to achieve something like this. So you are going to the first step, I'm doing the sum again. The first step is for you to choose where you want your answer to be. Then you put your equal sign. Remember, equal sign alerts Excel that you are going to make what calculation. So equal sign, and then call on the function that you want. So me, I want to add up some numbers. So the perfect function to add up number is what? The sum function. So I call the sum function, or I actually type the sum function, and after that I can now reference my cell. So I now say D2 because that's where my data is 2. So in case of Excel, you use your colon as 2. Okay, so D2 to D6. So you press enter and you have your answer there. So Excel add up all the numbers from D2 to D6. So all the number from starting from here down to here is what Excel adds up to give you what you're having here. So this function is very simple, but very powerful as well. And the next function we are going into is the average. So the average function is used to find the mean value. Okay, so if you want to find the mean value of data, you can use you can use the average function to do that. So I'm going to decide on a cell. Okay, let's use this cell for that. So I'm going to have the equal to, I'll have here average, since that's what I'm going to use. So by the time I type AV, so I have my IntelliSense will suggest what I would want, possible functions I would want. So I can now choose. Then I'll now use my cell reference D2 to D6. So it's actually simple. Equal to your function and then cell reference, then enter. So you can see that Excel does what? Calculates the value or the average value automatically for you. So if you just want to doubt, this is what Excel does. Excel is going to add up all this, which will resulted in this. Then after that, it will divide it by the number of values you have. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 values here, like 5 data. So what Excel is going to do is going to use this 1,170,000 naira divided by 5. So you have the total of 234,000 naira. So that's how the average function works, which actually finds the mean value. Okay, so the next one is the count function. The count function, the count and the count A function. Let's combine the two together. So now let's count data, because this is what count function does. Count function actually counts data. It counts data. So the first function, which is the count function counts only numbers. So it's going to count only numbers. Count only numbers. So once you just put your equal sign and choose the function count, as you can see, the IntelliSense says counts the number of cells in a range that contains number. So only cell that contains number, that is going to count. This function is going to count. So I'm going to double click and then I'm going to input the value, or better still, my range. Okay, so I'll now have, remember what I said by range are multiple cells. So when you have multiple cells, they are not called cells again, rather they are called what? Range of cells. So I'm going to have my cell reference. So let's just use the same D2 D6, D2 to D6, and then enter. So you see 5. So you have 5 cell that contains number in the range. So it actually means that from cell D2 to cell D6, you have only 5 cell that contains data, or that contains number, sorry. We only have 5 cell that contains a number. Okay, so that's what it means. So that's all you need to know about the count function. So now let's go to the count A. Now the count A function counts all non-empty cells. I repeat, all non-empty cells, cells that are not empty. So that's what the count A counts. It counts all non-empty cells. Okay, so it will count names, or it will count text as well. So far it's not an empty cell. Okay, so that's what it is. So it will count text, or it will count alphabet. So far it's not an empty cell, but count only counts cell that contains number only. So and that's what you need to know about the count A. So let's just try equals to count A. So let me just pick the IntelliSense so that it will put the bracket and ready for the syntax, or the cell reference rather. So I'm going to use this. So I'll have C1. Let me just use that, or C2. So sorry, I have C2 to C6. So I press enter. So it has 5. Remember, it is a text, but since there is no empty cell, okay, it counts it as well. So from C6 to from C2 to C6, you have 5 data inside. So from the range of C2 to C6, you have 5 data, or 5 records there that are not empty. So remember what it does. It counts what? Non-empty cells, all non-empty cells. So that's why you're having 5 there. So that is all about count and count A. So the next one is the min and max. Okay, this function helps you find the smallest value, which is the mean, and the largest value, which is the max. So if you want to know the person with the highest salary here, you can use this function to actually achieve that goal. Or you want to know the person with the highest score in school. Okay, if you are doing a school record system, so you can student record system, you can as well use this function. It will help you achieve that goal. So we use min to do what? Find the smallest, then max finds the largest value. So let's start with the first one, which is the mean, which is the smallest value. So you want to get the smallest value. Let me just use this particular cell. So I'm going to use equal to, and I'm going to type there MIN. So it already comes up. I double click and it's asking for my cell reference. So I might choose okay, let me just say I want to know, after adding the allowance, okay, the salary, the allowances, the total, and multiplying their total salary by 2. Okay, I want to see the person with the least salary. So I'm going to choose this particular column. So I'm going to choose column I for that. So I'll have, my reference will be I2 to I6. So I'll now press enter. So you have the person with the least salary, which is 206,000. So if you check the list here, the person is the only one with the least salary, which is 206,000. So that is for calculating for mean. Now the next one is calculating for max, which is the largest value. So let's check for the person with the largest value or the largest salary here. So we are going to use this function to actually achieve that. So remember your rule. You must first of all add an equal sign to it. So you use the max function. So I double click on it, and I'm going to put my cell reference there, which is going to be the same thing as that. So as for us to see, I'll have I2 to I6. So I press enter, and you see that. So this is the mean function, and this is the max function. This shows the minimum value, this shows what the maximum value or the largest value. It's very helpful for reports and analysis. As I said before, if you are a teacher and you want to know the student with the lowest score, you can use this function, the mean function, and the highest scored students, you can use the max function to actually put up your report. All right, now the next function we are going to be talking about is today and now. Those two functions, today function and now function. So this function works with date. These two functions, the works with date. Okay, so today function shows the current date, and it's going to report the date that is on your system. So if your system is not up to date, which is your system is not carrying the current dates, so it's going to show the date, the late date that your system is carrying. So irrespective of what your system is having, that's what it's going to show for you. So it's going to pick the system's current date, and also the noun function, which is for time, is picking your system's time. So let's try these two functions and see how each other work. So I'm going to use the first one, which is the today function. So equal to today. Alright, and this one, it doesn't need any cell reference because it's picking a data from somewhere, so it does not need you to reference the cell because there's no cell here that contains the current date. So it's going to pick the date from the system. So I'll just press enter. So it actually picks. So we are having here 21st April 2026. That's what the current date is. That's today's date. So next function, which is the now function, if you want to bring out the current date and time. So this now function has two things, date and time, while today's function does what had only one, which is the current date. So I'm going to type there now function, double click, and I press enter, and you see it brings up the date here and then the time here. Now as you are pressing enter, or as you are working, or maybe later on you close this workbook and then reopen it again, it's going to change. Okay, it's going to change, the time and the date are going to change, so it automatically will be updated. All right, now another function we are going to consider is the if function. So I'm going to do an introduction to this particular function. So I'm going to give just a basic logic for this function. Okay, so maybe in other lesson or in more advanced lesson as we are going, we can now improve this. So, but I just want you to have a little knowledge about this. So let me give an introduction to if function. So now let's look at this very important function if. So if allows Excel to make decision. That's what if function does. It allows Excel to make decision. For example, if a score is greater than or equal to 50, it should be passed, or otherwise it should be fail. So that's a decision, okay, which Excel can help you get. So it actually helps. Excel actually helps with the help of this function, if function. It helps to do what? Make decisions. So the formula is just like this. So now, for example, let's say I want to test this particular cell, this one here, which is C14. I want to test this cell C14, and then using if function, let's see what happens. So I'm saying equals to if. So now the syntax says logic test. So the first thing is going to be the logic test. So the logic test here is the condition you are giving. Okay, is the condition giving. Now for the example I gave that if a score is greater than or equal to 50, it should be passed. So that's a condition. That's a condition, and that's the logic test here. That's what is required. So a condition, okay, it's actually the logic test, the logical test here that it's looking for. So you are going to give a condition here. So I'm going to say if this cell C14, okay, is equal to, okay, if this cell is equal to 5, okay, then value if true. That's what should it return if the value is true. Okay, what decision should it take, okay, if it is true, or what action should it take if it is true? So I should say, it should tell me I love Excel. But what if it is not? What should it say? Studying Excel. Okay, so we're done. We press enter, and that's it. So now let's explain why it's giving us this and what it means. So you are telling Excel if what is inside C14 is 5, it should tell you I love Excel. But if it is not, it should tell you I'm studying Excel. So Excel look at what is inside C14. So if you look at C14, what is inside C14 is a text, and it is saying for division. So Excel sees that what is inside C14 is not 5. Okay, it's not the condition. It doesn't meet the condition. It doesn't meet the criteria you gave. That's why it is telling you I'm studying Excel instead of I love Excel. Had it been this cell was 5, it would have told you I love Excel. So let's just put 5 there, and let's see how it automatically change that to what we have. So I put there 5 and I press enter. You can see the changes there. It's telling us I love Excel. So that's actually how the if function helps to make decision. It helps in decision making. Now let's practicalize this. So let's have a real life scenario. Okay, let's say you have student score in column B and the result in column C. Now in column C2 you're going to type if open bracket B2 greater than or equal to 50, you close the brackets, and then you quote pass and comma, you quote fail, then press enter, then drag down if you have more than one record, and Excel automatically grades all students. So that's how to create a simple student record system, or let's say grading system. So maybe we are going to do that in our advanced class. Now an important tips you should not forget is when using function, always start with what? An equal sign. Use brackets, okay, and open and close brackets correctly, especially when using an if function. Now select the correct range. Okay, always select the right range so that you have the right answer. So our practical exercises, let's just go into our practical exercises. So always know that taking time is very important. Accuracy, I know, is important than speed. So making sure that your work is well groomed is actually more important than you speeding up to finish whatsoever you are having at hand. So always take your time when you're working with functions. Now let's do our practical exercises. So just pause this video and practice this. So enter list of numbers, maybe like salary or like scores, then use those numbers to sum, to add average, to count, to use mean and max as well. Now you can also use if the if function and create a pass and fail. Okay, create a pass and fail record, and also you copy the formula down. After that you save your work, and then that's all. So you can pause now and practice, because in this module you have learned what functions are, how to use sum and average. We've also learned count and count here, we learned the mean and max, today and now function, and also we've learned a basic if function. So in the next module we'll learn how to sort and filter data, which helps you quickly to find important information. So see you in our next lesson.
If you find this video helpful, please subscribe to SME Digital Tools Academy for more videos like these. Thank you.